Hello and welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Joining me in the studio today is my co-pilot, Jeff Harding. Jeff, how are you today?
I am wonderful, Kyle. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
You never know how I'm going to answer that, do you?
Well, I don't. I hope you're just going to say, I am wonderful, Kyle, and usually you do, but you pause just enough.
Once in a while, I just throw that little curve in there, yes.
Well, it keeps it exciting.
It does. Yes, and entertaining.
It does. Well, entertaining
for me,
I guess, is subjective, but no, that's great. I'm glad that you could be with us.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you could be here too.
It's a great day. I've been thinking about a couple of things. A couple of weeks ago, I was sick, as you remember. I had a good cold, and I've thankfully gotten past that. But it got me thinking about a few things. And we live in a world that is just crawling with bacteria, right?
That's what I've heard. I've not personally seen any of them, but I've heard.
Keep your eyes open because they're out there. These little critters, they outnumber us by the quadrillions. I mean, we're definitely outnumbered. Some of the bacteria is good. Mm-hmm. Does productive things. The yogurt that you were talking about.
Yes, it keeps things going smooth.
Yeah. Some of it's bad.
Yes.
Stuff that we don't want to interact with.
The stuff that gave you your cold.
Yes. So today we're going to have a candid and a frank conversation. I'm going to share with you 5 things that you've probably touched today that are crawling with germs and maybe a couple of ideas of what to do about it, okay?
As long as you have the answers and not just the questions, then we're okay.
I'll ask the questions and then I'll maybe share an answer.
Okay.
5 things, okay?
All right.
Number 1, beds.
I definitely touched a bed this morning.
Yeah, so we all have, right? We all sleep in a bed every single night.
Unless we're in trouble and then we sleep on the couch.
Sleep on the couch, right? Well, every time you hop into bed, you release from your bedding a microscopic cloud of human skin cells, dust mites, and their poop, fungal mold.
Thanks for that image.
Hey, it's true. It's true. Insect parts, pollen, and bodily secretions from every portal of your body.
Oh, I think I'm going to start sleeping standing up now.
Hey, I said it was going to be a candid and a frank conversation, right?
Throw in there that my dogs sleep on the bed.
Well, then you've got pet dander.
Yes, and secretions from every part of their body, too.
Potentially fleas, other things. I mean, just, all of these things get trapped in our pillows and mattresses and even the box springs thanks to gravity and just the fact that, they're there.
Right.
And they can fester for years, that it is what it is. All of these organisms can cause allergic symptoms like headaches and stuffy nose and other
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
other unsavory stuff.
Okay, I hope you have an answer for me on this one because I'll never sleep again. I'll be maybe at my desk, but not at my bed.
So here's some things you can do. Keep your pillows, mattresses, and box springs in impervious covers so that nothing can get in them or get out of them. And then put regular sheets over them and then wash them every week and then wash the covers a couple of times a year. So
we don't have the impervious covers, but we do wash our sheets regularly.
And that's good. Yeah. That is good. But apparently they're saying the impervious covers are important as well.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So that image. So sleep tight tonight.
The newest horror movie.
Don't let
your bed attacks you.
Yes. Don't let the bed bugs bite.
Or the other stuff.
As they say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was number 1. Did you like that one?
That was special.
I told you, these are things that we've all touched.
You stayed up late thinking about this, didn't you?
Well, I'm going to stay up late tonight thinking about it.
Bet you are. Don't tell your wife about it because we know about her and her
that's right.
phobias.
That's right. Number 2, toothbrushes. I think it stands to reason that there's some germs associated with toothbrushes, but listen to this frank and candid aspect of the conversation. So it is not a germaphobe myth. Your toilet really can splatter germs onto your toothbrush. It is true. Now, however, low-flow toilets do limit how far every flush sends poo particles throughout your bedroom, or your bathroom. So it's best to keep your toothbrush in a drawer or a medicine cabinet, but don't go so far as to get a toothbrush head cover because that just traps the moisture in and just allows for more breeding of bacteria.
Now, my toothbrush, I have a separate room for my sink and my commode.
Yes. So and that's better than not.
Still. Yeah.
Better than not. But here's your solution. Replace your toothbrush every 3 to 4 months to cut down on bacteria, and then make sure that you close the toilet lid before you flush.
Or always use the bathroom at work.
That would work too. Number 3, we've talked about this one before in previous shows, but kitchen sponges.
Yeah.
It turns out that thanks to kitchen sponges, there are more foodborne illnesses such as E. coli and salmonella that come from home cooking than there are that come from restaurants. We always hear the big stories about the restaurants. We hear those stories, but actually that happens more often at home. And kitchen sponges are one of the biggest source of contamination in people, and it's oftentimes the single dirtiest thing in the house. So, I mean, if you just think about it, and this is just typical. I know we all think that we don't do this, but this is what happens. You use the sponge to get the raw chicken juice off of your cutting board. Then you scrub the used plates, you scour the sink, and then you use it to make the countertops clean, or at least to look clean.
Or just get a nice even coating of germs and bacteria. And
unfortunately, that's what we end up doing, right? So here's the solution. In between scrub sessions, soaking your sponge in a bowl of bleach water is a good idea. It's really the only way to zap everything that calls your sponge home.
Or always eat it at a restaurant.
Because I'm sure that they've got clean sponges.
There's no doubt that they...
Okay, number 4, remote controls. Okay. Remote controls love to harbor bacteria. The biggest thing that is associated with the number of germs on your remote control is the number of people that use it. So if you live home alone and you're the only one who uses it, it's not that bad.
It's just your germs.
If it's just you and your spouse or your significant other, it's not that bad. But if you start inviting guests over, and if they start... Or if they have children, or if you have children that are interacting with that remote, it can be very, very germy.
I'm having this image of myself sitting and watching TV, holding the remote against my chin.
Yeah, we all do those things, right?
I don't think I'll do that anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, the solution, of course, is to wipe that down with an antiseptic cleaner every once in a while. They did say if you're spending time in a hotel, which happens.
It does.
How many hands have touched that remote control? Right?
Oh, man.
So in the article that I read, they say there's no use in even trying to clean that one. Pick it up with a paper towel, drop it in a Ziploc bag, and use it from the outside of the Ziploc bag.
There you go.
Keep the germs off, okay?
Words to live by.
Here's the last one. We'll get through this one quick. This is the one that you probably think about when you think about things that I've touched that are full of germs.
Okay.
But even though we think about it, we still don't do anything about it, and that is, what do you think?
Your face? No.
Our cell phones.
Our cell phones.
That are held up to your face. Right?
Oh, that's right.
So, I mean, no one ever cleans their cell phone. Again, we think that we do, but really, when was the last time you cleaned your cell phone?
I wipe it on my sleeve occasionally.
Oh, well, then there you go. I stand corrected.
Clean.
I stand corrected. So none of us ever clean our cell phones except for Jeff, who wipes it on his sleeve occasionally.
Which of course leaves it clean because my clothes are clean.
Absolutely. So there was a study at the University of London. The researchers found E. coli, Staphylococcus aureus, which is a common bacteria. I'm saying it wrong, but it's a common bacteria that lives on skin. So it is common outside, but it can prove fatal if it reaches your bloodstream through any scratches or open wounds on your skin. And they found these bacteria on 16 to 25% of the phones that they tested.
So let me see if I've got this right. I can no longer sleep in my bed, brush my teeth, wash my dishes, or talk on my cell phone. And which one am I missing?
Don't use the TV remote.
Don't use the TV remote.
Yep. Other than that, you're totally fine.
My life is going to be pretty boring.
You're totally fine. So obviously the solution there is to wipe down your phone with an alcohol containing wipe so it kills the bacteria. So anyone up for a communal tub of popcorn that we could share together?
Like the one at the office?
Like the one at the office. Obviously, wash your hands. Wash the stuff that your hands are regularly touching. Those are the key points here, right? On a happy note,
I think I need to go see my doctor.
That's right. On a happy note, I'm happy to introduce our guest today, who is Dr. Danny Warwood. He is an Instacare doctor out in Hurricane, Utah. He's probably seen all kinds of preventable infections in his lifetime and in his profession and in his career. But Dr. Warwood, we're glad to have you with us. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us.
I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful.
So were any of those things a surprise for you?
No, actually, we call things that harbor bacteria and viruses, they're called fomites. And they're everywhere. Computer keyboards are another major culprit.
Yeah, I mean, really, when was the last time you thought, "Ooh, I'm going to wash down my keyboard"? Like you could use that for years and years and years and never give it a second thought, and it's got to be harboring all kinds of creepy crawlies.
I read one study that suggested that computer keyboards are actually worse than the toilet.
Yeah. In fact, all of the things that I said, they all had that sentence in there somewhere, but I kind of wanted to take it out. But
I appreciate that.
Dirtier than your toilet. Your cell phone dirtier than your toilet. Your sponge is way worse than your toilet. I mean, it went on and on. So that's how you build up your immunity, though, right?
Yeah, there was another study that suggested that children who grew up on farms and were exposed to all kinds of manure actually have a better immune system.
Yeah, I do think there is something to that.
So if you're raised around crap, you have a better immune system.
Yes, and so your children are safe.
Yes, they are. Thank you, Danny. Told you he was witty.
He beat me to it, but well, that's great. Well, once again, thank you for being here with us. Now, you are an Instacare doctor.
I am. I've been in the Instacare for a year now, or just over a year. Prior to that, I practiced full scope family medicine for years.
So for those who are maybe outside of our area who aren't familiar with that term Instacare, what does that mean exactly?
Well, contrary to what people think, that it's not as instant as you would
It's not necessarily
hope.
Instantaneous.
Yeah. What we do is provide care for people who have urgent conditions that can't get in to see their primary care providers. And so if somebody has even a cold or a sore throat or problems that aren't necessarily emergent, but they can't see their doctor for a week, then they come in to see us. And usually the wait time is relatively short. On a bad day, they might have to wait 2 hours, but most of the time it's much less than that.
But that could happen in your primary care office as well.
Oh yeah, and has
2 weeks in a primary care office sometimes to get in to be seen.
Well, and even when you have the appointment, sometimes you end up sitting in the waiting room for 2 hours.
And it's much quicker than as compared to, so you say, going to an emergency room where your wait can be even longer than...
Yeah, in an emergency room, your urgent problem falls behind all the emergent problems, and so you're less of a priority.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Healthcare is such an important part of our lives, and it's such an important aspect. And when we're the ones that are sick, we're the ones that need care. I mean, I think we just generally all feel that way. The Instacare system within Intermountain Healthcare really fills an important role where you can't reach your attendant physician. You don't have a broken neck or something like that would require an emergency room visit, which is where most of the Instacare visits ended up, oftentimes, even though they weren't necessarily emergencies. Before the system came into place, a lot of those things ended up in an emergency room.
You're exactly right, Kyle. A lot of the emergency rooms were being overwhelmed with simple problems, and they weren't able to care for the more emergent problems.
Yeah.
Or their staff were being overworked. So the urgent care centers throughout the nation have helped take that load off the emergency rooms and also off of primary care providers. We see patients every day who were sent there by their primary care provider who's communicated with them on the phone that they couldn't see them then, or they needed a test that couldn't be provided right away, and they come in and see us and we take care of them.
And it's available. Excellent. You're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. We're visiting with Dr. Danny Warwood, who is an Instacare physician in Hurricane, which is just outside of St. George here. I'm curious, do you see trends? Do you see, are there seasons when you're seeing more people? Are there specific things that you see a lot of? And what are those things?
Well, we're just entering the cold and flu season now. So the fall and winter months, we see a lot of cough and sore throat, but we also see other things come through the community, like the Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah. Or the Huntsman World Senior Games.
Speaking of preventable injuries.
Right now, we've seen a lot of strep throat. We've seen a lot of hand, foot, and mouth disease, and a lot of gastroenteritis, or what's commonly referred to as the stomach flu.
Yeah.
What's hand, foot, and mouth disease?
I thought that was a card game.
Hand and foot definitely is.
Oh, okay. Hand and foot.
It's a viral illness that most frequently affects children. It has mild respiratory symptoms, but they develop a rash on the palms of their hands and feet, and also in their mouth. That's
because
why
they're
it's
touching
called
their
hand,
mouth.
foot, and mouth.
Yeah.
I just never heard. I mean, I've heard of hoof and mouth, but not hand, foot, and mouth. So,
well, hoof and mouth is the cow version.
Oh.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't
They're
know
both
that.
Coxsackie viruses.
Interesting. So we wanted to talk a little bit today about preventable injuries. A lot of times when the Huntsman World Senior Games are going on, there are things that happen, and people oftentimes end up going to the Instacare, which again fills that very vital role of non-emergency. But our athletes are from outside of the area. They need some care. They don't have a primary care provider who's in the community, so they end up showing up at the Instacare. What's the thing that you see most often, not necessarily related to the games, but just most often in the Instacare that's a preventable injury?
Well, by far and away, accidents are the most common cause of injuries that we see, where people are doing things and they take a wrong step, or they slip on something, or they have a fall and injure something. So accidents would be the first most preventable thing, but it's not something that we always think about. Mm-hmm. It's not something that warming up helps or stretching helps. It's
right.
just thinking ahead.
It's an accident, right?
Yeah. I think if we had a rewind button that would just take us back 5 seconds, we'd all avoid a lot of accidents.
Yeah.
I know I would. Could you invent one of those?
I'm working on it.
Okay, great.
But you'll have to wipe it down with an alcohol wipe every once in a while.
Because somebody else is using it too.
It's a lot like the easy button from Staples.
Yeah.
Just a rewind button. Other than accidents, overuse injuries are probably the next most common, where people try going from not doing anything in a relatively sedentary life to wanting to run a marathon or do an event that they're really not prepared for. And so I talk to people about making sure that they build up gradually, and that if they have a coach or a trainer, that they listen to the authority to help them prepare for whatever event it is that they're going to be participating in.
That sounds like good, solid advice.
It really does. I'm just thinking about like a plantar fasciitis. What causes an injury like that, or a condition like that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I know from personal experience what plantar fasciitis is, and usually. Well, I shouldn't say usually, because there are so many factors that can go into causing plantar fasciitis, but oftentimes it's poor footwear, wearing flip-flops or shoes that don't have good arch supports, or going barefoot on hard surfaces, or spending a lot more time on your feet. Being overweight increases your chances of plantar fasciitis. But sometimes it's just bad luck. People who have flat feet are more prone to having plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, and that's a fairly common condition. People may not know that they have it, but they can describe the conditions once you've had it, you recognize the description very quickly.
Yeah, those first few steps in the morning as you get out of bed, you feel that plantar fasciitis that feels like a spike pushing into the heel of your foot.
Exactly.
I don't have that, thankfully.
And you never want to have it.
Yeah. So you've struggled with that.
Well, that's why I put my weight back on. That's when I had to stop running. Remember when I had to stop running because I got plantar fasciitis, and it hurt to walk, let alone run.
Yeah.
And then when you would run, it would hurt even more when you stopped.
The next day, yeah, you'd pay for it the next day.
So what do you do?
Get good shoes. That's why I wear the footwear that I do. It's fixed me. I developed plantar fasciitis when I was doing my surgical rotation. I'd spend 8 hours a day on a operating room floor, which is very hard. And I lived with it for probably 20 years before I found that good shoes really do make a difference.
And inserts. You can...
Or you can get orthotics or arch supports that you put in and help.
That's what I, for the most part, have used, is just a good insert. It's still good shoes, but also a good insert. It helps me... keep it away. Keep it at bay. Mm-hmm.
And then weight loss, gentle stretching of your feet and Achilles tendons, warming up before exercise, and ice. A lot of people go naturally to heat, but ice actually helps more with tendinous injuries and help calm down that inflammation.
And why is that? There's always that question of ice or heat or both or which one. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish with ice, and what is it you're trying to accomplish with heat? That might clarify.
Well, ice helps calm down the inflammation that's there. And it also decreases spasm of muscles because it decreases the blood flow to the muscles so they don't have the calcium that they need to contract. And that in turn loosens the tendons a little bit.
Okay. And then what about heat? When would be the time when you're like, okay, I got to get some heat on this?
So I recommend ice for people who are having muscle spasms or chronic inflammatory conditions. Heat, I recommend as a soothing agent. Or for people, it's often nice to alternate ice and heat because on one hand, it calms the inflammation. On the other, it increases the blood flow a little bit to the muscles to help them heal. But ice to prevent swelling and to help with inflammation, heat is more soothing and actually is able to penetrate joints a little bit better.
Okay, so they each have their place.
Mm-hmm. I've actually heard more trainers say the alternating is probably the ultimate for muscles and hot, cold,
I
ice,
believe
cold.
That's true.
Ice, cold first.
Sports type injuries and sore muscles and things like that. Excellent, very good. Well, so obviously we're our thoughts turn to the Huntsman World Senior Games and our athletes and preparation and whatnot as the games get closer, and we're a long ways out now. But any advice for people who are getting ready to compete in whatever event that it is that would help them prevent injuries in the long run?
I think the best advice I could give is to just have them think ahead. That will help them, one, avoid accidents, two, prepare for whatever event it is that they're going to be participating in. It's not like you can just decide one day that you're going to be an excellent swimmer and the next day naturally be one. If you do it that way, then you end up with very sore muscles and injuries. So you got to do the prep work. It's also a good idea to consult with a trainer for that specific event to help you know what warm-ups you need to do, what exercises you can do to help you prepare for that event.
So I've got a question that is relevant to me right now, and you mentioned sore muscles. So I've been helping coach the Snow Canyon wrestling team, and I did not prepare myself. So I've done everything that you've told me not to do. Okay, and then the other day I thought, well, I'm just going to jump right in with these boys, So now 2 days later, I'm just really struggling getting up out of my chair. Stairs are very intimidating. I'm sore. So what can I do? Just wait it out?
You can do that.
Well, I'll end up doing that eventually.
They say the resurrection will come eventually and fix all that. It's okay to take an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication or pain reliever. Once again, I would alternate heat and ice, and I would do gentle stretching. You want to maintain mobility in those sore muscles. You don't want to just sit in the couch and put your remote control on your chin and collect germs.
So just quickly, when you say gentle stretching, now when I say stretch in my mind, I have an image of what that is, and that's getting the big muscles and pushing hard. When you say gentle stretching, what are you referring to?
Well, the best stretch is it takes about 40 to 60 seconds per muscle group. You don't want to bounce or push really hard. You just want to stretch that muscle group enough that you feel it pull, and then you want to hold in that position for 40 to 60 seconds.
See, that's the part that I don't like.
The holding part.
The feel the muscle pull and then holding it.
You probably don't do the ABCs when you brush your teeth either.
No. I do Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Okay.
Over and over and over. I actually have a sonic hair, so it tells me when to stop. So anyway, well, lots of good stuff. Thanks for being with us today. And any last minute advice that you might give for somebody who's preparing for a sporting competition?
I think it's important to warm up before any event. You don't want to go from being cold and inactive to an event that's very exertional. That's when muscles are pulled and injuries occur. So a good warm-up. I'm not a big proponent of stretching before an event. Mm-hmm. I think there have been a few studies out there that show that it doesn't really do any good.
I've read all of those.
But gentle stretching after an event
is important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, thank you so much for being with us, Dr.
I do need
Warwood.
to say that Dr. Warwood is now old enough to compete in the Huntsman World Senior Games.
don't you have to be 55?
No, just 50.
Oh, wow.
You're eligible.
I'm there.
Awesome.
Tomorrow.
Well, next October. We'll be ready for you.
You can come over and visit us if you want, but there won't be any competition going on.
Okay.
Well, once again, thank you so much for being with us. The games, as you know, are over. We've been talking about that.
Yep.
But we are working on next year already.
Lots of planning.
Yep. The last several weeks, we've been recapping with our 2015, recapping the games with our sports directors and getting ready for next year, learning from them what went well, what we need to do better. If you're wondering about next year's dates, the games will be October 3rd through the 15th in 2016. So plan to participate.
And it is a special anniversary.
Yeah, it's our 30th anniversary.
30th
next
anniversary.
Year, so we're excited about that. For those of you who are outside of the area, you can listen to this as well as any of our previous episodes right from our website at seniorgames.net. For those in town, check us out on FM 93.1 or AM 1450. And our inspirational thought for the day, do something today that your future self will thank you for. Until next Thursday, stay active.
Bye, everyone.